Hello viewers, we're back in Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. You're probably wondering to yourself, why is he not flying in 2024 and having it out? Well, the reason for that is I haven't had the best luck in 2024. It seems to have a lot of issues to it. So we're going to take this plane. It's the Beechcraft V35. Very nice looking little plane. We're doing a trip from Penticton in the Okanagan Valley, British Columbia, to Vernon, and we're going to take off to the south. We're going to turn around. We're going to head north up the Okanagan Valley and do some sightseeing along the way. So first thing we got to do is take off the parking brake. Second thing we're going to do is go one notch of flaps, and let's get airborne. Now I do have access to 2024 through Game Pass, and I have tried it. I've managed to make a little bit of progress, but it's got a lot of bugs that are sort of affecting my ability to really make more progress on it. So I'm thinking what I might do is to maybe take a few weeks, give it a month or so to cook, and see whether or not I have an easier time with it at that point. We're going to head a little over to the right here, which would be west.
Continue for south departure.
And then I'm going to do a loop over the lake to get myself
Tower
pointed north.
Beechcraft, November 295 Kilo. Continue for south departure.
Now, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, well, if you haven't seen the only other one I've got posted on Flight Sim 2020, I'm using a Track IR. I've got a honeycomb yoke for flying with, as well as the honeycomb Bravo throttle quadrant. And I've got a set of rudder pedals, the Thrustmaster ones. That's the town of Penticton, just down there. Gets quite popular with the tourists in the summertime. And let's get us set up for doing a nice little climb.
Beechcraft 905 Kilo, leaving my airspace frequency change approved. Penticton Tower, Beechcraft, November 295 Kilo, frequency change. Vancouver Center, Beechcraft, November 295 Kilo, is type Beechcraft Bonanza, 1 miles east of Charlie Yankee Foxtrot, 3,400 feet. Request flight following. Beechcraft, November 295 Kilo, Vancouver Center. Squawk 0034. Squawk 0034, Beechcraft 905 Kilo. Beechcraft 905 Kilo, radar contact, 2 miles northeast of Charlie Yankee Foxtrot, 3,800 feet. Altimeter 29.902.
Now, in case you're curious, I am using the autopilot for
Kilo.
this. It's not like I can fly all that smooth. And we can bring the power back a little bit. And then we can do some sightseeing. Now, I actually lived here back in the 70s when I was in high school. It's a very nice area, especially in the summertime. Lots of lakes and stuff like that. A lot of hills around for dirt biking. Plenty of just kind of wild territory if you like to go off-road and stuff like that. And Okanagan Lake here goes all the way from Penticton to Vernon. So it was real popular for boating and stuff like that. As you can see, that's a very nice looking plane. It's the Bonanza V35. Normally I like my Mooney M20 for Flight Sim 2020, but this one's got a bit of character to it as well. And I really like that aluminum skin, especially with the red trim. So we'll line this up a little bit better to run straight down the middle of the lake. It's got a fairly nice interior as well. One of the things that kind of bugs me about a lot of planes in Flight Sim 2020 is the lack of analog gauges. It seems like they're not very popular anymore. And the other thing is that if you do find a plane like the Cessna 150, it's got terrible lighting on the instruments. So if you're doing evening or night flights or anything like that, they don't look great. That was one of the things that really drew me to the Mooney M20, is that it did have nice instrument lighting. And if you want to do straight line over the mountains, you need to get up to about 6,000 feet. We're just a little after sunset, so it's still relatively light. I'm also using a Track IR4, so that makes it really nice for having head tracking. Although one of the things that I've noticed is that if you want to look at something in the cockpit and focus on it, you kind of have to disable that. So I've mapped one of my mouse buttons so that I can shut that off, and then I can zoom in and I can use the various switches and pumps and stuff like, or switches and dials and stuff like that, without having my head move around. Because even if you zoom in nice and close, it's super difficult to hold your head steady enough to be able to really do this. Now, Track IR does have a precision mode, which slows your movement down a little bit. But even so, it's hard to stay still enough without actually using the pause function on it. And if I remember right, it was about 70 miles by road from Penticton to Vernon. I remember driving out to Kelowna and Vernon a few times when I was in high school. That's not a long drive. But of course, a lot quicker to do it in a plane, in a flight simulator. And we got a slightly better view of the landscape. Now, one thing I will say for 2024 is it does have nice enough landscapes, but the loading times are just horrific on it because it has to reload every single item every time. Why are we losing altitude? Huh, that is unusual. So yeah, it's got to load everything every time. And the other thing that kind of bugs me is that I've had a number of crash bugs on it. I've had issues with the track IR ceasing to function in certain planes. I've had issues where the return key on the keyboard doesn't function for acknowledging ATC, stuff like that. So yeah, as I say, I'll probably just give it a little bit of time. I'm sure they'll improve it, and hopefully they'll make it so that if there's certain areas that you're flying in, you can keep more of the stuff preloaded on your computer.
Air Canada 225 heavy contact Vancouver Centre on 135.0. Good day.
Personally, I'd be happier with a 100 gigabyte or even 200 or 300 gigabytes to improve the performance to what I get on Flight Sim 2020. And even though the new one might look a little nicer, you can't argue with the graphic quality we got here. Especially considering the extra stability you get out of it. Okanagan Lake is extremely deep. I'm not sure exactly how deep, but they got their fabled Ogopogo that supposedly lives there. Sort of the Canadian version of the Loch Ness Monster.
Vancouver Centre WestJet 377 Heavy is passing 2,200 feet, climbing 13,000 feet. WestJet 377 Heavy Vancouver Centre altimeter 29.9, 2 radar contact. Continue to Lima Whiskey.
And this, of course, is the town of Kelowna. Well, city now. Of the three main towns in the Okanagan Valley, Kelowna is the biggest of them. Interesting thing about that is the bridge down below is actually a floating bridge. It's been in place since the 70s, I guess. And because it's floating, it's a bit of a problem to get past there with boats with a larger what do you call it? Height off the water. So something like a sailboat with a mast is going to be a problem there. I'm kind of struggling with the autopilot a bit here. In fact, let's get us out over the lake. I've been trying to use autopilot a little bit more to get used to it, as opposed to hand flying. The Honeycomb Bravo, which is a new purchase for me, has a lot of functionality built in for that. But it can also be a little bit of a handful to get figured out.
WestJet 377 heavy climb and maintain flight level 230. Climb and maintain flight level 230 WestJet 377 heavy.
Okay, I think we got it kind of straightened around now. So as you can see, at night the cockpit's quite nicely illuminated. And at this point it's not ridiculously dark yet. The clouds are still throwing a fair amount of light onto the ground. It's weird how there's a difference in the distance shown. 14 nautical miles compared to 12.7. I don't know what's up with that, because they're both marking the same place. I have a habit of, of not remembering to switch my fuel tank over, so it gets a little heavier on one wing than the other. So in this case, it's going to have a tendency to want to roll to the right a little bit. I've been trying to pay more attention to that, but with limited effectiveness. And I guess in theory, we could probably start dropping our altitude a little bit. Why does this thing want to keep dropping back into altitude mode? Yeah, I had this happen to me before. I couldn't get the thing to switch.
Vancouver Centre, Air Canada 125 Heavy Flight Level 380. Air Canada 125 Heavy Vancouver Centre radar contact. Continue to Meadow.
Okay, so much for using the autopilot. We'll just have to hope I can do this manually without crashing. If you happen to know these planes in Flight Sim 2020 and you have any idea why the autopilot doesn't seem to want to switch into vertical speed mode, I'd love to hear about it. One of the things I really liked about the M20 were the speed brakes on the wings.
Beechcraft 905 kilo traffic is 2 o'clock full miles at 6,100 feet Airbus A20N. Report them in sight. WestJet 2177 heavy traffic is 3 o'clock full miles at 2,000 feet Beechcraft Bonanza. Report them in sight. Beechcraft 9 or 5 Kilo have the Airbus A20N in sight. WestJet 2177 heavy traffic in sight.
Oh, that was not pretty. I think I'd have been better off without the landing lights.
WestJet 2177 heavy, you are 11 miles north. Climb and maintain 16,000 feet. Expect ILS Yankee runway 16 approach via WTMAN transition. Cleared to WTMAN. WestJet 2177 heavy, climb and maintain 5,500 feet. WestJet 2177 heavy, you are 10 miles north of Kelowna. Contact Kelowna Tower on 119.6 when inbound on the approach.
Okay. Not the prettiest landing.
Tower on 119.6 WestJet 2177 heavy.
Alright, well, thanks for watching. Hope you found it slightly entertaining, if only for how bad the fly-in was. If you did, come back for the next one.